This is the Louie T Network.
See, first come the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then my team was 6-10, and we ain't smell a playoffs. Yeah, I seen the Super Bowl, but I heard they just play balls. A lot of teams had injuries. Sam Bradford had to take off. Go hard in the offseason, but you don't know the half. Before you know, we gon' look up, and we ready for the draft. They dressed up in that suit top, and I don't know how to act. They waiting, so patient, so they can put on that hat. Who else could it be? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks you where you at, you tell her you in the lab room. Who else could it be? Who? But your man Luke. Okay, so when she asks where you was at, you can tell her you was in the lab room. Yeah.
So we're back with part 2 of the Hurry Up Offense, a breakdown of all the games in week 2 of the National Football League. We'll pick up where we left off. Atlanta Falcons at the New York Giants. Falcons currently going on a tour of the NFC East, beating the Eagles in week 1, taking on the Giants in week 2, Cowboys in week 3, Redskins right around the corner in week 4 or 5. So this was a big matchup because if you're looking to make the postseason and you're playing teams within your conference, you need to bolster that conference record. So this on the road against the Giants, a big game for the Falcons. Start with them in this game. Julio Jones continues to be a one-man wrecking crew for this Falcons football team. And I'm here to tell you that he's the best receiver in the league. I didn't feel that way before the season started, but I think the mantle has been passed and he is now the best receiver in this league. His combination of size, speed, the ability to go up and high point the football, he doesn't drop the football, run after catch, his toughness. This guy has the complete package. There's a play in this game, Falcons deep in their own territory. I don't know why Matt Ryan throws his football. It's inexplicable. He should not have thrown it. It's a bad decision, bad throw, but Julio Jones was trying to play defense and get rid of the football, reaches over 2 defenders while he's in the air horizontally, and he stretches out, grabs the football over 2 defenders, tips it to himself in the air, falls down, ball on his chest, and he's able to corral the football over 2 defenders. Should have been picked off. Julio Jones not only stops them from picking it off, but catches the football. He's that kind of dynamic player late in the ball game when the Falcons had to have it, always need it. Goes and gets the football, catches it, gets tackled at the 1-yard line, actually looked like a touchdown. Later, after review, determined that he was down at the 1. Falcons later on, 2 plays later, go in the end zone and win the football game 24-20. So Julio Jones, to me, is the best player on the field every time he steps foot between the white lines, and the Falcons continue to utilize him like they did last week. He continues to just be everything the Falcons could imagine and more when they invested that money in him in this off season. Jacob Tamme, he's making plays for this team on the offensive side of the football. I didn't expect Jacob Tamme to be such a big part of this offense, but he was huge in this game. There was one rollout, a misdirection play. Matt Ryan rolls out to the left. Jacob Tamme sneaks across the formation to the right, leaks out, no one is covering him. Big play in the passing game for the Falcons, and he was killing them up the seam. Jacob Tamme, short hands, he was big in this game. So was Leonard Hankerson, and I thought he would be a good replacement for Harry Douglas in this offense, and he has been, and he's had to be a big replacement because my next question, where's Roddy White? I thought he had a really good opening game versus the Eagles. 1 target in this game, no catches. He was non-existent in this game. We can't have this happen. If the Falcons are going to be a playoff team, Roddy White is going to have to step up to the forefront. They need this guy. Julio's going to need help. Leonard Hankerson isn't going to be the most reliable guy. As you saw, he had a drop or 2 in this game. He can do that from time to time. I still thought Leonard Hankerson had a strong game, but you need Roddy White to step up and be the guy that he's been throughout the course of his career for this Falcons offense to maximize the amount of potential that it truly has. Huge plays in this game by Corey Bierman. You need your veterans to step up. You got a lot of young guys on this defense. We've seen Babineau step up along that defensive line. Corey Bierman needs to step up, and he did in a major way. That sack, strip force fumble of Eli Manning was the play of the game. Without it, you lose this football game. You were already down 20-10. the Giants were going to get points off that possession, whether it be a field goal or touchdown. That remained to be seen. But his strip of Eli Manning there changed the game. It kept you in the ball game and allowed you to crawl back in and ultimately win. Also had a 3rd and 1 stop for negative yards, tackle for loss, on a big 3rd down late in the ball game to get the football back to the Falcons offense. So again, Corey Bierman, huge. You need that veteran leadership to step up and make plays, and he did in this game. You go to the Giants side of things, Odell Beckham Jr. Shame on you, and you step to the old dirty Beckham. Huge in the first half, that catch and run, mwah, thing of beauty. You get this guy the ball in space, in stride, and you better look out. This guy is a machine. He showed you in the late stages of that first half, catching the football. He really turned that first half on its head with that catch. Really, the Falcons had this game in control until that play. He runs past the entire defense, gets in the end zone, and the game was changed from that point moving forward. Shane Vereen, I thought that when the Giants went out and got him, this is exactly what they envisioned when they signed him in the offseason. A guy that can catch the football out of the backfield, you can hand it to him, but where he's going to do his most damage, catching the football out of the backfield, that's what he did in this game. He was a big difference maker, and the Giants are going to have to continue to use him if they're going to have any success on the offensive side of the football, because right now Odell Beckham Jr. does not have a counterpart at wide receiver. They need Victor Cruz in the worst way. They just released Preston Parker because he dropped the football a couple more times in this game. Ruben Randall has been on the milk carton all season long. They need Victor Cruz. Odell Beckham Jr. needs some help. Dwayne Harris, stellar on special teams. Thought he had some really good returns on both kickoffs and punts. He slipped a couple of times. I thought there were more yards to be gained, but you see the explosiveness. You see what this guy brings to the table. He was good in this football game. Clock management problems. That 3rd and 2 delay of game was tremendously huge for this Giants team. You cannot have those type of mistakes. Eli Manning knows better. He's a veteran. He's got to get to the line of scrimmage, call out the protections, set everything up, and have everybody ready to go before the play clock runs out. And they were cutting it close all game long and finally bit them. And that was a big time penalty that pushed them back to 3rd and 7, which they did not convert and end up having to punt the football. You cannot have those type of mistakes if you want to win in this league. And sometimes that's the difference between winning and losing a game. And that was a really gut-wrenching penalty that saw this Giants team drop this football game. And the Giants defense, don't want to let them off the hook here. They had the Falcons pinned deep in their own territory on 2 occasions in the second half. You got to get those stops. You got to get those 3 and outs. You got to force the Falcons to kick from the shadow of their own goal post. You got to get good field position for your offense. Instead, they let the Falcons get out of their own territory. And even if they don't score, which they didn't on a couple of those possessions, you still want to force them to have to punt the football and give you good field position. You allow them to flip field position. Even if they get a 1st down or 2, they still get space to punt. They still get to flip the field position, and that's what they did. Giants defense let this team down, having them pinned deep and not being able to keep them in their own territory deep. So I look at this in 2 consecutive games, the Giants up 10 in the 4th quarter and they blow the lead. This one, I don't really count it because when the 4th quarter started, the Falcons literally were at the 20-yard line looking to go for points. Even though technically it was the 4th quarter, they were up 10, the Falcons were going to score points, and so that 10-point lead was really a phantom 10-point lead in the 4th quarter. But nonetheless, you're up 10, 2 straight games, find a way to lose both of them. This Giants team easily could be 2-0, but that's the way the cookie crumbles in the National Football League. They are 0-2 and desperately need that Thursday night tilt against the Washington Redskins, as they gotta have that game or else their season is finito at 0-3. Falcons now 2-0. Got a big one against the Cowboys. 2-0 teams facing off. That should be a lot of fun. No Romo. That's going to be very interesting to see how that game turns out. San Francisco at Pittsburgh. Not going to spend a lot of time on this game because obviously the 49ers didn't spend a lot of time game planning for this football game, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time breaking this game down. What I will say is this game was very slow early on. A lot of penalties by both teams, so the game is kind of moving a little bit slower than I expected when I turned it on. A lot of mistakes early on by both squads. A lot of hankies on the ground. But the Steelers were up 29-3 at the half. They dominated this football game. Antonio Brown continues to be a menace and continues to catch 5 or more passes in every game. He extended that streak in this football game. But the story of the game for me on the offensive side of football was Darius Hayward-Bay. That guy couldn't catch claps in a whorehouse, yet he went out and had himself a career day versus this San Francisco 49ers defense. And anytime Darius Hayward-Bay gets you, you know you're in trouble, okay? You can go ahead, pack your tent up, go home, and go back to the drawing board when Darius Hayward-Bay is catching deep balls on you. And he had himself a feast at the hands of this 49ers defense. The 49ers weren't prepared, and to me, if you want to have a microcosm of this game for the 49ers and what this day entailed for them, just look at this third quarter drive. 18 plays, 7 minutes and 4 seconds of the third quarter clock. 82 yards is what this drive spanned. 3 drops on this drive, including Bruce Miller's touchdown drop on 4th down that would have given them a touchdown. You had a fumble by Colin Kaepernick that was recovered by the 49ers. And then you had 3 4th down attempts. 2 of them were converted. The final one, which was the drop by Bruce Miller, which ended their drive. They moved the football 82 yards, couldn't get that 83rd and get into the end zone. And that was the day for the 49ers in a nutshell. For the Steelers, quickly, Josh Scobie has to tighten up. He's got to be better. He's missing field goals. He's missing extra points. Look, this is why they brought you here, because you're a veteran. You're supposed to be proven. You're supposed to be able to put the football through the uprights. They didn't spend the pick to go out and get you for you to come over here and mess this up. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. They cannot afford to have a kicker be inconsistent. You better tighten up, Josh Scobie. I know there were no expectations in Jacksonville, so you were allowed to do whatever the hell you wanted to do out there. This is a good football team. You better tighten your ass up and start making some field goals and some kicks. Ryan Shazier is everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I think he's right there too. That guy is a menace. If 5-0 can just stay healthy, he's going to be a problem for opposing teams on the Steelers defense. So is Eminem. He's starting to finally get comfortable, that being Mike Mitchell. They signed him to the big deal a couple of off seasons ago. He seemed out of place. Now he's starting to really find his stride and find his groove in Pittsburgh. And I think this defense, it's young, but it's starting to come together. If guys stay healthy and they can mesh and gel together, the Steelers defense is going to be a handful to deal with as this season goes on. You move on to the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. This was a game that I thought the Cardinals should win, but I didn't expect it to get out of control the way that it did. I did expect Alshon Jeffrey never, ever trust a man with 2 first names to play. He didn't, and once he didn't play, and I knew he wasn't going to suit up, I said the Bears are doomed from the start of this ball game. Let's look at it from the Arizona Cardinals perspective. David Johnson, the rookie running back, continues to be a menace. Out of Northern Iowa, I've talked about this kid all offseason long. If he could just stay healthy, he would be a difference maker for this team. Well, we saw what he did last week, 31-yard catch and run to put the game on ice for the Cardinals. Last week versus New Orleans, first play of the game, opening kickoff, 108-yard kickoff return. This guy is special. 12-yard catch for a touchdown in the third quarter. 2 games, 3 touchdowns for David Johnson. He is a playmaker and a dynamic player out in space. You get this man the football and you watch him work. I think the Cardinals have something in this young rookie phenom. The defense continues to make plays. You had the Tony Jefferson pick 6 where Cutler gets injured and has to leave the game due to a hamstring injury. You have Pat P welcoming in Jimmy Clausen to the lineup with an interception later in the game. And again, when you're the Bears and you're not good enough, you can't have turnovers. This is an aggressive Cardinals defense, and they showed exactly why they're one of the NFC's best by really piling on the points, putting their foot on the gas pedal, and not letting up on this Bears team. L Boogie continues to show why he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. He still is an impact player. You saw it in this game. 3 touchdowns, including 1 with Shea McClellan, a linebacker, having him in a sleeper hole 40 yards down the field in the end zone. They don't throw the flag, Larry says don't worry about it. Even though he's trying to choke me out, I'm gonna still catch the football anyway for a touchdown. 3 touchdowns for L Boogie. He is a monster and still has the best set of mitts in the entire National Football League as the Cardinals rack up 48 points on their way to their 2nd victory of the season. You go on to the Bears. No Alshon Jeffrey. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names, and that's why he's not able to go. when he wasn't in the lineup, I knew right then and there you're relying on Josh Bellamy, Marquise Wilson, and Eddie Royal. That trio of receivers not going to beat anybody in the National Football League. And so I knew the Bears were in trouble from the get-go. This defense is a work in progress. They can try as hard as they might, but when you have a collection of guys coming from all walks of the NFL, you got rookies coming in and starting, unknowns playing for this team, it's just too many guys that haven't had a chance to gel and mesh yet. So you're going to give up plays, you're going to have miscommunications, and that's what this Bears team is dealing with on the defensive side of the football. You still had a chance, though. You forced 2 turnovers right before halftime. You had the muff punt by J.J. Nelson. You also had Jared Allen making a hell of a play, picking off Carson Palmer to give you a chance to get to 20 and make it a 28-20 ball game at halftime. But that's as close as you would get as the Cardinals ran away with this football game in the second half. That Cutler hamstring injury, that's tough. And again, you say what you want about Jay Cutler. He gives you the best chance to win. Jimmy Clausen, you're not going to win many games with Jimmy Clausen under center. I can assure you of that. Cutler going to miss a couple of weeks, at least with that hamstring injury. And this Bears team not going to be very good this year. I already knew that before the season started. Now you start taking players away from them like Alshon Jeffrey and Jay Cutler, and it just makes this situation that much tougher. Bears go down 48-23, drop to 0-2 on the season. Cardinals move to 2-0 on the season. You go to the next matchup, Minnesota Vikings at home taking on their NFC North brethren in the Detroit Lions. A little bit of NFC North family business. A lot of fumbles in this game. First thing that I had to point out. A lot of fumbles. Both teams were extremely sloppy with the football. Did the football have Crisco on it or something? I mean, you had a fumble by Theo Riddick in this game. You had another fumble by Fuller, the wide receiver for the Lions. And then Adrian Peterson fumbled 3 times in this game. One of them right by the end zone. Actually, I want to say it might have been 2. Well, I know one for sure, right by the end zone. Luckily enough for him, there was a penalty on the play that gave the Vikings a mulligan, or else the Lions would have recovered that football. He's got to be better. This reminds me of the old Adrian Peterson, not the guy that was running for 2,000 yards, but the guy before that used to fumble all the goddamn time. He's got to tighten up. And we know what kind of a player he is, but nobody likes a fumbler. Nobody does. And so he's got to tighten up. But let's start with Detroit in this game. Couldn't get the running game going. I thought that was huge. Matthew Stafford threw the football 53 times in this game. That is a recipe for disaster. If your name's not Brady or Rodgers, you probably don't want to throw it 50 some odd times. You're probably not going to have good results when you do that. And so you knew that was a recipe for disaster right there, but they could not run the football against this Vikings front. Matthew Stafford took some shots in this game, and I'll talk about one in particular a little bit later on, but he took some shots and he left this game battered and bruised. There was even question as to whether he would be able to play next week because he was so banged up after this game. When you throw it 53 times, what do you expect? This is an aggressive Vikings defense that can get after the quarterback. He took some shots. Brian Robinson was playing his ass off in this game, and Matthew Stafford felt the wrath of Brian Robinson on a number of occasions in this game. Heavens to Megatron! After only being targeted 3 times last week, he got the football this week, and you knew that was going to happen. They knew they were outside of their brains last week for not getting that man the football. 17 targets, 13 grabs this week. You knew that was coming. I still want to see them drive the football down the field some more. Everything was short and sweet. I wanted them to go down the field. This is Megatron, okay? Heavens to Megatron! You know what kind of athlete this guy is. Get him down the field 40, 50 yards and chuck it up there and let him make a play. A lot of short passes. And wait, I don't even know if he eclipsed 100 yards in this game, even though he had 13 grabs. I'm pretty sure he did, but the average wasn't what you would expect for Calvin Johnson with that many grabs in a game. But again, give credit where credit is due. This Vikings defense really held them in check. Anthony Barr shoved at the tail part of this game in the fourth quarter as this game is kind of winding down. Matthew Stafford trying to pick up a first down, running towards the sidelines. He's kind of jogging casually, but he's going out of bounds. You see that. And Barr gives him a nice 2-hand chuck out of bounds on the Lions sideline. Now, I normally don't make a lot out of these type of situations, but when you have something like that happen on your sideline, normally 4 or 5 guys are going to come to the defense, especially of the quarterback. Nonetheless, going to hem the guy up, potentially get a personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty because everybody is pissed off. You don't do that to our quarterback. No one came to the defense of Matthew Stafford had to come to his own defense. He had to get up and get in his face. I don't want to make too much of that, but you tell me, would that have happened to Aaron Rodgers? Would that have happened to Drew Brees? Would that have happened to Tom Brady? You tell me. I'm asking you. You don't let that happen to your quarterback on your sidelines and nothing happened. So that is a little iffy. That sent off a couple of red flags, but I'm not going to harp on that. That just could be a microcosm of what is actually going on in that Lions locker room. You go to the Minnesota Vikings though in this game. Awesome opening drive. It was the anti-drive of last week because last week you got the football, great field position after the field goal block, and you blew it. And this week it was a totally different vibe. You threw it 3 straight times last week and then had to kick a field goal that you missed. This week you said, nah, we're not gonna do it like that, man. We're gonna give the football to Israel. Okay, handoffs out of the shotgun, out of single back, I formation. It didn't matter. He was getting the football. 7 carries on the opening drive for 45 yards. Very good opening drive. Ended and capped by a 5-yard Kyle Rudolph touchdown grab. So that kind of set the tone in this ball game. I think it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment though for Adrian Peterson in this offense because he's not used to running shotgun handoffs. But Teddy Bridgewater, is more comfortable in the shotgun than he is under center. And because of that, he's going to have to take a lot of shotgun handoffs. I'm not a big fan of it, but it is what it is. He's going to have to make that adjustment. He was in shotgun formation, and he was asked to block with Adrian Peterson, and he absolutely whiffed. And because he whiffed, Tedo was under duress, and he gives the football to Adrian Peterson. Lo and behold, Adrian Peterson able to run for a huge 60-yard gain on a pass that he created because he didn't block. So that was just funny to me to see how that whole play unfolded. But Blair Walsh continues to struggle, and you hate to see that with the kickers. He misses an extra point. We know this guy can kick the football. We know he can be accurate, but kickers are just like golfers, just like jump shooters, just like golfers, just like jump shooters. They got to see the football go through the uprights to get confidence. He just needs to make kicks on a consistent basis to get back to being the Blair Walsh that the Minnesota Vikings paid money to in the offseason. I don't like to see this guy struggle, but at some point he needs to tighten up. He's going through a little bit of a phase right now, but there's no grounds for you to make any kind of changes. He just needs to tighten up. And finally, a lot of good plays on this defense. I talked about Brian Robinson in this game. Adrian Peterson goes over 100 yards rushing for the first time in a long time. Justin Trato with an excellent interception. This Vikings team was hungry, starving for a victory. They felt like they played a terrible game last week. They bounced back in a major way, 26-16 at home within the division, get their first win of the season, drop the Lions to 0-2. And I talked about this on the podcast. I said this Lions start to the season was a landmine type of start. You walk and step in the wrong areas and you could start this season off 0-2, 0-3. And don't look now, but you got to go home on Sunday Night Football and take on the Denver Broncos. Not an easy feat at all. And with Matthew Stafford banged up, you could easily drop to 0-3 on the season. And if you do that, you can kiss your season goodbye in that tough NFC North division. Meanwhile, Vikings go to 1-1, salvage their season, and now they look like the same team that we expected them to be coming in to the season. You go to the next matchup, Miami at Jacksonville. Thrilling game, didn't expect it to be, but that's what we got. And let's start with the Dolphins here. Devontae Parker makes his season debut, has a grab. Good to see him get off the shelf and get onto the field. Let's hope he can be an impact player for this Dolphins football team. Dolphins D didn't respond in the first half though. When's the last time you see the Jacksonville Jaguars score 20 whole points in the first half? When's the last time you seen that? I don't ask me, I don't know. It's been a long time, okay? But they did it in this game because the Dolphins didn't do anything. There was no resistance from this Dolphins defense. Hell, Blake Bortles had over 200 yards passing in that first half. He was doing them in, and the Dolphins didn't do anything about it. Ryan Tannehill was stroking the football in this game, especially that opening drive of the second half where he was 5 of 5 for 58 yards, including a 5-yard touchdown pass to Jake Stoneburner. I just like saying that, Jake Stoneburner. fresh off the practice squad, catching a touchdown pass. It was a beautiful drive, and I thought Tannehill was sharp in this game. He did miss some open receivers, as he does in just about every contest, but that guy looks the part of a quarterback that gets it, and he was sharp, and he was good enough to win in this game, but the defense didn't make enough plays. But they did step up in the second half, really limiting Jacksonville to next to nothing in the second half, but the offense of the Dolphins didn't do much of anything in that second half outside of that opening drive to knot it up at 20. Jarvis Landry and Rashard Matthews were putting in work in this game. Both of those guys were dynamic, and Jarvis Landry even had a long Statue of Liberty run called back that was just dynamic. He is turning into one whale of a ball player. We talk about his running mate at LSU all the time, and Odell Beckham Jr. We need to start talking more about JL Smooth. That guy is a football player that I would take on my team any day. And Rashard Matthews also putting in work in this game as well. But the story of this game, a boneheaded personal foul penalty in the late stages of the ball game, the final drive of the football game by Olivier Vernon. He's a veteran, knows better. He lost his cool, and in the heat of the battle, he allowed his emotions to get the best of him, chucks a Jacksonville Jaguars offensive player, and right in front of the official nonetheless, and they draw the flag. That was a huge 15 yards to put the Jaguars in field goal position to win the football game, and they actually lose 23-20. It's a tough loss, and I talked about the same thing I said about the Redskins last week. It's the same thing that applied here against Jacksonville. You want to win the division in the AFC East, you want to be a playoff team, you gotta win games like this on the road. It's not acceptable to lose to Jacksonville, even though that's a different Jaguars team. They're playing better football. They believe in their team and their coach. I don't care. You're a better team than them. You're supposed to win this game, and you didn't. Let's look at it from the Jaguars' perspective, though. I was really pleased with Allen Robinson. I talked to Allen Robinson so many times ad nauseum. I said, you gotta be the guy, A-Rob. You gotta be the guy. You gotta step up and be the #1 receiver for this team. And I didn't think he wanted to be that guy. But in this game, he said, I can be that guy. I just need confidence. And I said, okay, I don't know what you gotta do to get that confidence, but I need you to play like a #1 receiver because this team doesn't have one. You welcome back Marquise Lee, and all of a sudden, maybe that was what lit the fire under him, but he played like a #1, going up, high pointing the football, making huge plays, well over 100 yards in this game. He was the best player on that Jaguars offense in this game, and that's what I need from Allen Robinson on a week in, week out basis. Allen Hurns was special as well. We know he can be inconsistent, but when he's on, he's a difference maker as well. Big 58-yard field goal right before the half. Your brand new kicker showed the leg off. They had a dumb pass interference penalty. Who gets pass interference penalties before the half? Who does that? The Dolphins did a lot of irresponsible things in this game. They wanted to lose this game. 58-yard field goal right before the half made it 20-13 at the halftime break. TJ Yeldon, not bad for the second consecutive week. I say to myself, not bad. TJ Yeldon looking like a very promising rookie. Rashad Green, 2 more drops, catch the goddamn football. You were supposed to have short hands. Why do you keep dropping the football? But he made amends with a beautiful punt return in the late stages of the third, early fourth quarter, where he is deep in his own territory, makes a couple of guys miss, bounces out of the pack, comes and reverses field, and picks up about 25 yards on the punt return. It was a big return, flip field position, excellent return, but you better catch the football on the offensive side of the football. Huge sack by Jared Odrick in the late stages of the game. Dolphins have the football with a chance to take the lead and win the game. And Jared Odrick, on the first play of that drive, sacks Ryan Tannehill at his own 1-yard line. Ball goes in the end zone for a fumble. Luckily enough, the offensive tackle that gave up the sack, Fox, in the game for their left tackle that got injured, was able to scoop the football up, recovering at the 1-yard line. I think Jared Odrick really wanted to show his ex-mates that you let a really good player go, and I know that had to be exciting for him as he made really what was the play of the game on the defensive side of the football for the Jacksonville Jaguars as they win this football game 23-20. Big win for Gus Bradley, Blake Bortles and company. I thought Blake was good on, he wasn't great, but he was good enough on that final drive to lead them down the field with some help for the game-winning field goal. And once again, Jaguars haven't won in September in eons. This is the first thing they snapped a 17-game losing streak in September, something like that, which is insane. So it's good to see them get off the schneid, get a win early in the season, and give them hope for the future. But it's tough. Now they got to go to New England in week 3. Good luck with that. You're going to need it. You go on to the next game, the Sunday night tilt, Seattle at Green Bay. And I look at Seattle, and I knew they were going to lose this game, first and foremost. I didn't think they had a chance. But I look at them and I say, you still seem confused as to how to use and integrate Jimmy Graham into this offense. And I think they talked about it on the Sunday night telecast. You got to get Jimmy. I talked about this last week on this very program. I said, look, it took you too long to get Jimmy Graham involved, but the second half of that Rams game, I thought that's exactly how you need to use Jimmy Graham. He needs to be a bigger part of this offense. You don't have enough playmakers for this guy not to get the football. And again, they found ways to not get him the football. It blows my mind. You don't go out and spend a first-round pick on a guy and don't get him the football. They got to integrate him better. They just simply do. They're not getting him the football enough, and it's very disappointing. The offensive line continues to struggle. Beast mode has nowhere to go. And he's literally getting yards off of him being beast mode. Him breaking tackles, powering through contact, and getting yards after contact. But there are no holes to speak of for Marshawn Lynch with this offensive line. There is nothing, and I mean nothing there. Another tough night for him. And this Packers defense was run on mercilessly last week by the Bears and Matt Forte. I thought that there were some opportunities, no Sam Barrington in the game. I thought there were opportunities to run, and they had nowhere to go in this game. And it's because this offensive line is simply not getting the job done. Not enough playmakers on offense. And that speaks to Jimmy Graham being there and not getting the football. Not enough playmakers on his team for you to not get him the football. I just feel like Russell Wilson has to do too much. This offensive line is not doing enough, so Russell Wilson has to do more because Marshawn Lynch isn't doing enough. And then you couple that with the fact that this defense isn't elite without Cam Chancellor, and it looks like he'll be back here shortly. I'm starting to hear that the contract is going to stay intact and that they're looking to try to get some of that fine money reduced. It sounds like he's coming back, but until he does, and shakes that rust off, because you don't just sit out 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks, or however long he's going to be out. I think he's just going to jump back in and be the Bam Bam of old. He's going to have to shake off some of that rust. This team isn't forcing turnovers on the defensive side of football. They're not scaring anybody with their defense. They're going to have to work harder on offense because they're not holding teams to 17 points anymore. They gave up 34 last week to the Rams. They gave up 27 to the Packers. They're giving up points, so now you got to do more on offense. This is just a different outfit right now in Seattle. 2 costly turnovers. You're on the road against a Green Bay Packers team that I could argue is the best in the league in Green Bay. Can't turn it over twice. Cannot turn it over twice and expect to win. That's a hell of a play by that rookie linebacker to stick his hand out there and pick off Russell Wilson, but still, you cannot turn it over twice and expect to win on the road against probably the best team in the league. You go to Green Bay, A-Rod continues this ridiculous home play where he's not turning the football over. I don't know what the streak is now, but 2 more touchdown passes, another game without an interception at home. Only 8 completions out of 33 attempts, over 200 yards passing. He was just dynamic on the night. He did everything his team needed him to do. And I just love how he goes about his business. When he needs to run, he does. When he needs to slide, he does. When he needs to buy more time in the pocket, he does. He's got a rifle for a right arm. The guy is just the best in the business. Green Bay continues to personify the next man up mentality. And what I mean by that is Eddie Lacy leaves this game early on with an ankle injury. In comes James Starks, almost runs for 100 yards. They don't miss a beat, okay? You already know the story of James Jones coming in, having a big week against the Bears in week 1. I knew that wasn't going to happen again this week. I said, okay, I'm expecting Devontae Adams to step up this week. I'm expecting a week healthier Randall Cobb to step up. Well, Randall Cobb did step up, over 100 yards receiving in this game. But Devontae Adams goes down with an injury, and up comes Ty Montgomery, who steps in and makes some catches and does some things for them in the passing game. They continue to have the next man up mentality, and they just continue to churn out W's. This is a really good football team, and if you ask me, they're the best team, not only in the NFC, the best team in the league. This Packers team is on a mission. They know they should have went to the Super Bowl last year and possibly won it. And I think they're on a San Antonio Spurs type mission when they lost to the Heat in the championship, when they knew they should have won. That next year they were a team on a mission. I feel like the Packers are the same way. They get it done 27-17 at home over Seattle, who is reeling at 0-2. They gotta have it. Good thing they got a Chicago Bears team that is coming to town that is terrible, that they're gonna win and they're gonna trounce, get healthy on, and hopefully be able to flip the switch on and start winning some ball games for this Seattle Seahawks football team. So you go to the surprise of week number 2. I think this was the biggest surprise of week 2 right here. I mean, we had a lot of surprises. This is the first time in NFL history that the Jaguars, Buccaneers, Redskins, and Browns all won in the same week. I mean, a lot of craziness happened. The Raiders, the Redskins, the Jaguars, the Browns, they generally don't win all in the same week, and NFL history reflects that these teams have never won all in the same week. And I didn't expect the Giants, and I didn't expect the Jets to do what they did in this game on Monday night on the road versus the Indianapolis Colts. I'm thinking to myself, Colts have a lackluster performance in week 1 versus the Bills, where the Bills defense dominates the game, forces some turnovers. But I expected that. I picked the Bills to beat the Colts. That wasn't a surprise to me. What was a surprise was seeing all the injuries that the Indianapolis Colts had going into this game, seeing the turmoil that's happening up top from the general manager and the head coach having a little riff and not being on the same page. What surprised me was that Frank Gore and the one and only DRE look like they're done. Maybe Frank Gore has a little bit left in the tank, but Andre looks like he's done, okay? I swear Andre Johnson looks like a totally different guy. I don't know this dude. I don't know this guy. He's not the one and only DRE, that's for sure. That's Andre Johnson. I don't know Andre Johnson. I know the one and only DRE. And so he looks done though. I mean, he's not making any plays. Guys are contesting him. He can't separate. I'm ready to see more Dante Moncrief is what I'm ready to see. But nonetheless, the Jets controlled this game from start to finish. They controlled it on the defensive side of football. They stayed in their comfort zone. They never made Ryan Fitzpatrick do anything out of the ordinary. And that was the Colts' responsibility. Force the issue, score some points, make the Jets have to push the envelope a bit. They never had to do that. They kept a lead. They were up 10-0 for the majority of the game. Colts cut into that lead at 10-7. They go right down the field and get a touchdown and make it 17-7 and put this game out of reach. The Jets stayed in their comfort zone the entire game. They forced another 5 turnovers. They forced 5 last week, another 5 this week, for a total of 10 in 2 weeks. I've never seen anything like that before. The Colts were horrendous. They couldn't protect the football. I don't know those Colts either. I don't know what they're doing, but I don't know those guys. They were down to their 3rd string, 4th string, 5th string corner. After Monte Davis left the game, they were done at the cornerback position. You knew they couldn't stop Decker and they couldn't stop Brandon Marshall. They're going to have a tough time and a tough go of it. I really thought the Jets should have went and been more aggressive and scored more points, but again, they never felt like they needed to leave their comfort zone. Let's not ask Ryan Fitzpatrick to be special, because he will be special and share and turn this game upside down. Let's just continue to run the football and continue to take our shots when they're there, and that's what they did in this game. I thought the Jets put together an outstanding game-clinching drive when the Colts got on the board for the first time and made it 10-7. They marched right down the field methodically, took the air out of that stadium, and won this football game 20-7. Indianapolis, too many mistakes. You can't turn it over 5 times. I don't give a damn who you're playing. You can't turn it over 5 times. They got too many injuries. The cornerback position has been decimated. They're struggling at receiver. T.Y. Hilton left the game. They're struggling. They just got way too many injuries right now. Andrew Luck under pressure constantly. This offensive line is terrible, and that's an understatement, and it's been that way for a very long time. They got to tighten up. And like I said, the one and only DRE, he looks washed up. Frank Gore, I think he's got a little bit something left, but he fumbled the football on the 1-yard line. This was a train wreck. I'm worried about this team. And the press conference after the game with Chuck Pagano, wow, this team is struggling, and I don't really know if there's a fix for this. I'm nervous. I'm going to talk more about this on my podcast, but that's a cause for concern as the Colts fall to 0-2 with a 20-7 loss to the New York Jets at home. Jets go to 2-0. A surprise 2-0 team on the season thus far is the New York Jets as they go home to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Titans have this Indianapolis Colts team coming to town. They're vulnerable. If the Titans know better, they better take advantage of this Colts team while they can. That's going to do it for the Week 2 wrap-up of the hurry up offense. Hut.
There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.